How does the queen of New Jack Swing vanish from music, right when she was dominating it? How do you go from Grammy nominations, platinum plaques, and headline tours to Fantasia singing your signature song on TV while you're nowhere in sight? No call, no invite, not even a text. And what if I told you it wasn't just a scheduling conflict? What if I told you the industry deliberately shut her out because she stopped playing their game? Because Karyn White wasn't just a singer. She was a woman who dared to say, "I choose myself over the machine." And the machine didn't like that. They painted her as washed, complicated, too focused on being a mom. But what really happened behind the scenes? Why didn't Babyface, the man who crafted her biggest hit, even mention her during his own Soul Train tribute? Why did BET pretend she didn't exist? And why did Karyn go radio silent for 18 years, only to pop back up, running her own label, flipping houses, and teaching her daughter how to play the stock market? This isn't just a comeback story, it's an expose. Let's talk about how Superwoman got ghosted by the very industry that built her, and why she might have ghosted them first. If you ask most people what happened to Karyn White, you'll hear the same lazy answer. She fell off. Or maybe she had a baby and just disappeared. The narrative has always been that Karyn got married, became a mom, and gave up music. But that's not what really happened. People forget. Karyn White didn't have to chase the spotlight anymore. By her mid-20s, she already had multiple hit records, a mansion with maids and nannies, and the kind of career most artists only dream about. She was married to hitmaker Terry Lewis, part of one of the most powerful music duos of the era. She wasn't struggling, she was stacked, and she was calling her own shots. But here's where the misunderstanding started. Karyn didn't want to play the role the industry gave her. She wasn't interested in being a forever sex symbol. She started dressing more conservatively, thinking about business, talking about going back to school. And suddenly, the label wasn't feeling her anymore. The minute she shifted out of their fantasy, they labeled her difficult, unfocused, not marketable. Translation, she stopped being what we told her to be. So the myth began, that she gave up, that she walked away. But maybe she just got tired of begging for respect she already earned. Here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Karyn White was too independent for an industry built on control. This was a woman who wrote songs as a teenager, toured with legends before she was even legal, and made hits with Babyface, L.A. Reid, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. She was in rooms most artists only fantasize about, and she held her own. But once she got a taste of that real power, it was game over for the industry's grip on her. She started investing her money, learning finance, talking about getting a master's degree, and the label's response? "You used to be a sex symbol, now you dress like a Fortune 500 executive." Yes, that's a real quote. They didn't want a grown woman with a brain. They wanted a polished product, an image. And Karyn White, the artist, didn't fit their fantasy anymore. She stopped showing up just to be cute in promo pics. She stopped singing on command. She started asking questions. And worse, she started saying no. And in an industry where no is a dirty word, they labeled her as washed, uncooperative, or my personal favorite, missing. But she wasn't missing. She was liberated. And that scared the hell out of them. Before Karyn White ever went platinum, she already knew what industry politics felt like. And it wasn't pretty. She got kicked out of her first group, Legacy, because they thought her voice wasn't commercial enough. Translation, she didn't sound like what they thought would sell. Mind you, this is the same voice that would later dominate R&B radio. In her first major tour, a whirlwind of red flags. At just 17, she landed a gig singing background for O'Brien. A huge opportunity, sure, but she was quickly thrown into a world of creepy advances and power plays. Don Cornelius was involved. Famous men were constantly trying to get close. And Karyn later admitted she was too young and too trusting to see it coming. She said it straight. "All these famous people were trying to hit on me." Let that sink in. This wasn't some fairy tale rise to fame. It was a crash course in protecting herself. Fast. And still, she didn't fold. She learned, adapted, and doubled down on her career. She even wrote a song for Stephanie Mills at 18 and used the money to invest in herself, while also working at an accounting firm to pay bills. That's hustle, not just talent, strategy. But the industry never forgets when you step out of line. And for Karyn, that defiance started way before the world ever knew her name. Just when her career was at a high, Karyn White did something the industry never expects from its female stars. She chose love over limelight. In 1991, she married Terry Lewis. Yes, that Terry Lewis, the mastermind behind Janet Jackson's biggest hits. It was a whirlwind romance, the kind of industry fairy tale people write songs about. They ran off to Vegas, got married in secret, and Karyn left LA behind to live with him in Minneapolis. And for a while, everything looked perfect. She was living in a 30,000 square foot mansion, raising a daughter, reportedly adopting a son, and finally enjoying the peace she never got in her come up. But then something shifted. Karyn said it herself. She started losing who she was, not because of her marriage, but because she was drifting away from Karyn White, the artist, the confident, vibrant, fearless woman who dominated the charts. She didn't recognize her anymore. And the label noticed too. They straight up told her, "You used to be this sex symbol. Now you dress like a corporate executive." Yikes. Instead of celebrating her growth, they treated her evolution like a threat. And while Karyn was trying to balance motherhood and rediscover herself, her label was busy trying to recreate her in the image they preferred. She didn't want to be the industry's idea of a superwoman anymore. But when the music world senses you're no longer willing to play their game, they stop returning your calls. By 1994, Karyn White should have had the comeback of the decade. She teamed up with all the right people: Babyface, Terry Lewis, Jimmy Jam, Benny Medina, the same team that helped her dominate the late 80s. Her third album, Make Him Do Right, had the budget, the talent, the industry clout, everything was lined up. But when the label asked her to tour to promote the album, she said no, not because she didn't care, but because her life had changed. She was focused on being a mom. She was dealing with personal battles nobody knew about. The pressure of fame, the cracks in her marriage, the internal war between who she was and who the industry wanted her to be. It all collided. And just like that, the momentum was gone. The label backed off. Promo faded. The album underperformed. Not because it wasn't good, but because Karyn wasn't playing the game anymore. Then came the whispers. She's not hungry anymore. She let Terry hold her back. She gave it all up. But Karyn wasn't silenced by her husband. In fact, she made it very clear. Terry supported her. He wanted her to be great. The truth was, she chose her peace over pressure. And in this business, peace is expensive. Karyn White didn't flop. She paused, and the industry never forgave her for it. After the music faded, the silence got louder. Karyn's marriage to Terry Lewis unraveled quietly. No scandal, no public mess. Just emotional distance and heartbreak. And even though she tried to keep it together, the truth was, she was falling apart inside. She admitted she slipped into depression. Real depression. The kind where you lose your voice, not just vocally, but spiritually. She couldn't even bring herself to sing. And then, the losses started piling up. Her mother passed away, someone she called one of the two closest people in her life. And shortly after, her father passed too. She said it felt like she was grieving both of her anchors, and she didn't know how to stay afloat. Her career was gone. Her marriage was over. And emotionally, she was drained. She retreated completely, moved to Sacramento, started flipping houses, became an interior designer. She was still working, still creating, just not on the stage anymore, not in the spotlight, not where the world could see her. And even when she found love again, marrying her best friend, a producer named Bobby G, that too ended in divorce just a few years later. By 2008, the real estate market crashed. Her daughter was about to graduate, and that quiet voice inside her, the one that always said, "You're meant for more," started getting louder again. But coming back after almost 2 decades? In this industry, that's not a comeback, that's a battle. If you ever needed proof that the industry forgot or purposely ignored Karyn White, the 2015 Soul Train Awards was it. It was a full-blown tribute to Babyface, the man who co-wrote Superwoman, the song that defined Karyn's career. The stage was packed with stars. The nostalgia was real. And then, Fantasia walks out and performs Superwoman. Not Karyn, not even a mention of her. Fans were confused. Twitter was in flames. People were like, wait, where's the actual Superwoman? Karyn finally broke her silence. She made a video saying she was never even contacted. No BT call, no Babyface call, not even a text from a Soul Train intern. She said it wasn't about Fantasia. She praised her performance, but the disrespect, that stung. How do you not include the original artist in a tribute to the song she made iconic? And yeah, maybe it was a scheduling oversight. Or maybe, just maybe, the industry still didn't want Karyn White back in the spotlight. Think about it. A woman who walked away on her own term, who owns her masters, who started her own label. She's not easy to control. The silence wasn't just a mistake, it was a message. And Karyn? She heard it loud and clear. But Karyn White wasn't about to let an awards show snub write the final chapter of her story. After nearly 2 decades away from the spotlight, she came back on her own terms. No major label, no hype machine, just grit, grace, and a vision. In 2012, she dropped Carpe Diem, her comeback album, under her own label. That's ownership. That's power. And just like that, the woman they thought was gone was back. Wiser and even more dangerous to the industry that tried to box her in. She partnered with Jay King, the founder of Club Nouveau, as her manager, dipped her toes into acting, and even produced a web series. Oh, and she casually dated Al B? Sure, for a bit, because why not? But the reinvention wasn't just about music. Karyn was also teaching her daughter and nieces about stocks, entrepreneurship, and how to build wealth, not just fame. She launched the Karyn White Foundation to support female entrepreneurs and started mentoring women who didn't want to just sing in front of a mic. They wanted to own the studio. This wasn't a desperate comeback. This was a blueprint. She didn't want to be the industry's puppet. She wanted to be the architect. And honestly, she might be more influential now, behind the scenes, than she ever was with a Billboard hit. In 2025, Karyn White isn't chasing validation. She's curating legacy. She's still running the Karyn White Foundation, helping women get their businesses off the ground. Still mentoring, still investing, and still making moves that most artists from her era never had the chance to make because she kept control of her brand. She's tapped into acting, producing indie projects, and even making noise in the finance space, talking stock strategy and generational wealth like a seasoned Wall Street vet. Not to mention, she's out here teaching the next generation how not to get played. No messy headlines, no reality show drama, just a woman living life on her terms, with receipts to back it up. And musically, she hasn't closed that door either. There's buzz about new collaborations, maybe even a biopic. But this time, Karyn's calling every shot from the boardroom and the booth. The truth is, she didn't need a chart-topping comeback to prove she still had it. She is the comeback, just rebranded, rebuilt. And finally, respected for more than just her voice. Karyn White didn't get dropped. She dropped the game before it could drop her. She didn't disappear. She evolved. And the industry couldn't handle a woman who walked away from fame, kept her dignity, kept her masters, and still came back smarter and stronger. They wanted her to fade out quietly, but instead, she built a legacy in silence. And now, she's louder than ever. So the next time someone says, "Whatever happened to Karyn White?" tell them, she never left. She just leveled up. And that's exactly what they were afraid of.